Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided the cargo freighter New Horizon toward the docking bay of Harmony Point. The massive space station floated in the darkness between 3 star systems, its lights blinking like a small city in space. Jake had been to Harmony Point dozens of times before, but it never stopped being impressive. The station was huge, with ships from every corner of the galaxy coming and going at all hours. Docking Bay 7 is clear for U.S. approach, came the voice of the station controller through the ship's speakers. Jake recognized the mechanical tone of a Corvan, one of the many alien species that worked on the station. Copy that, Harmony Point. New Horizon coming in nice and slow, Jake replied, his hands steady on the controls. Behind him, his first officer, Lisa Barnes, was checking their cargo manifest on her tablet. She was a smart woman with short brown hair and quick eyes that never missed a detail. Looks like we're carrying medical supplies for the outer colonies this time, Lisa said, scrolling through the list. And some Earth coffee for the human embassy. Apparently, Ambassador Chen is running low again. Jake chuckled. Can't blame him. That synthetic stuff they serve here tastes like engine oil. In the engine room, Tony Rodriguez was making sure everything was running smoothly. Tony was a big man with calloused hands who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. He had been with Jake's crew for 3 years now, and Jake trusted him completely. The 4th member of their crew was Karen White, their medic. She was a quiet woman with gentle hands and a sharp mind. Karen had left a good job at a hospital on Earth to see the galaxy, and she never regretted it. She was currently in the medical bay, organizing their supplies. The New Horizon was not an impressive ship by galactic standards. It was a simple cargo freighter, built for reliability rather than speed or luxury. The hull was scratched and dented from years of service, and the engines were older models that needed constant maintenance. But Jake loved his ship. It had carried him and his crew safely across the galaxy for 5 years, and it felt like home. As they docked, Jake noticed something unusual. The station's main docking area was busier than normal, filled with ships he didn't recognize. There were sleek Zephyrian vessels with their silver hulls and energy shields, massive Corvan warships painted in dark red, and even a few elegant Velthari royal ships with their distinctive blue and gold markings. Looks like someone important is visiting, Lisa observed, peering out the viewport at the impressive fleet. Jake nodded. Let's just hope they don't need our docking bay. I don't want to argue with a Corvan battlecruiser about parking spaces. They finished the docking procedure without incident, and Jake was looking forward to a quiet day of unloading cargo and restocking supplies. That plan changed quickly when his communication panel beeped with an urgent message. Captain Morrison, this is Station Commander Velkan Toreth. Please report to the command center immediately. This is a matter of urgent diplomatic importance. Jake frowned. Velkan Toreth was a Corvan who had been running Harmony Point for the past 10 years. The commander was fair, but rarely dealt with cargo captains directly unless something was seriously wrong. Looks like our quiet day just got complicated, Jake said to Lisa. Take over here, I'll see what the commander wants. The command center of Harmony Point was located at the heart of the station. Jake had only been there once before, during a security briefing after a pirate attack. The room was filled with screens showing ship movements, communications, and security feeds from around the station. Commander Velkan Toreth stood in the center, his tall frame and gray skin making him look imposing, even by Corvan standards. Captain Morrison, thank you for coming quickly, the commander said, his voice deep and formal. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention. What kind of situation? Jake asked, confused. Did something happen to our cargo? No, nothing like that. The situation involves Princess Zarathel of the Velthari Empire. Jake's eyes widened. The Velthari were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, known for their telepathic abilities and ancient civilization. Their royal family was respected and feared throughout the known systems. The princess is here for important peace negotiations, the commander continued. She was supposed to depart for Kepler Station this morning, where the talks will take place. However, she has created what I can only describe as a diplomatic crisis. What kind of crisis? Jake asked, still not understanding what this had to do with him. She has refused transport from every ship that has been sent to escort her. The Zephyrian Imperial Guard offered their fastest diplomatic vessel. Refused. The Corvin battle fleet sent their most secure transport. Refused. Even her own royal escort has been turned away. Jake shook his head. I don't understand. What does she want? Commander Velkan Torith looked directly at Jake with his dark eyes. She wants to travel on your ship, Captain Morrison. Specifically, she has demanded passage aboard the New Horizon and will accept no other vessel. For a moment, Jake thought the commander was joking. Then he realized the Corvin was completely serious. That's impossible, Jake said. My ship is a cargo freighter. We don't have the security for a princess. We don't have the luxury accommodations. We barely have enough decent food for ourselves. I am aware of your ship's limitations, the commander replied. I have tried to explain this to Her Highness. She does not care. She insists that only humans can provide the protection she needs. Protection from what? That is classified information that I cannot share. What I can tell you is that the other diplomatic teams are becoming very upset. The Zephyrians consider it an insult to their technology and skill. The Corvins believe their military superiority is being questioned. If this situation continues, it could damage relationships between species that have taken decades to build. Jake ran his hand through his hair, trying to process what he was hearing. Why me? Why humans? We're still the new kids in the galaxy. Most species have better ships, better weapons, better everything. I have asked Her Highness that same question. She simply says that she has done her research and trusts only humans to keep her safe. She will not explain further. The commander activated a screen showing the docking bay where several impressive alien ships waited. Their crews stood around, looking frustrated and confused. Jake could see the tension in their body language. Captain Morrison, I need your help. If you refuse to take the princess, she may refuse to attend the peace negotiations at all. These talks are crucial for preventing a war between the Velthari Empire and the Zephyrian Confederation. Millions of lives could be at stake. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What about my crew? They didn't sign up for this kind of mission. The princess has requested to meet with you and your crew before making any final arrangements. She is waiting in Diplomatic Suite 12. I strongly encourage you to at least speak with her. Jake looked around the command center, seeing the worried faces of the station staff. Through the viewport, he could see the alien ships waiting in the docking bay. Whatever was happening here was bigger than just a simple transport request. All right, Jake said finally. I'll talk to her, but I'm not making any promises. That is all I ask, Captain. Thank you. As Jake left the command center, his mind raced with questions. Why would a princess of one of the most powerful species in the galaxy want to travel on his small, unremarkable ship? What kind of danger was she facing that required human protection? And most importantly, was he really considering putting his crew at risk for diplomatic reasons? He activated his communicator to call Lisa, Tony, and Karen. Whatever happened next, they would face it together as they always did. The New Horizon might not be the most impressive ship in the galaxy, but it had the best crew Jake could ask for. The diplomatic crisis was just beginning, and somehow, Jake Morrison and his crew were right in the middle of it. Jake walked through the corridors of Harmony Point toward Diplomatic Suite 12. His mind was spinning with everything Commander Velkan Torith had told him. A princess wanted to travel on his cargo ship, and somehow the peace of the galaxy might depend on his decision. It seemed impossible, but here he was. He stopped at a communication panel and called his crew. Lisa, Tony, Karen, I need you all to meet me at Diplomatic Suite 12. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Lisa's voice came through clearly. The kind that might change our lives. Just get here as fast as you can. 20 minutes later, the 4 crew members of the New Horizon stood outside the diplomatic suite. Jake had explained the basic situation to them, and they all looked as confused as he felt. So let me get this straight, Tony said, scratching his head. A alien princess wants to ride on our ship instead of those fancy warships in the docking bay. That's right, Jake replied. And I have no idea why. Karen looked worried. Jake, We're not equipped for this kind of mission. What if something goes wrong? What if someone tries to hurt her? I know, Jake said. That's why we're going to talk to her first. We need to understand what we're getting into. The door to the diplomatic suite opened automatically as they approached. Inside, the room was decorated in the elegant style preferred by the Velthari. Soft blue lights created a calming atmosphere, and the furniture was made from materials that seemed to glow slightly. Princess Zarathel stood by the large viewport looking out at the stars. She was tall and graceful, with the pale blue skin and silver hair typical of her species. Her clothes were simple but clearly expensive, made from fabric that shimmered like starlight. When she turned to face them, Jake noticed her eyes were a deep purple color that seemed to look right through him. "Captain Morrison," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Thank you for coming. I am Princess Zarathel of the Velthari Empire." Jake stepped forward and gave a small bow. He wasn't sure of the proper protocol for meeting alien royalty. "Your Highness, I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is my crew, Lisa Barnes, Tony Rodriguez, and Karen White." The princess nodded to each of them in turn. "I have been waiting to meet you. Please sit down. We have much to discuss." They sat around a circular table that seemed to be made from a single piece of crystal. The princess looked at each of them carefully, as if she was studying their faces. "I suppose you are wondering why I have requested passage on your ship," she said. "That's putting it mildly," Jake replied. "Your Highness, with all respect, there are ships in that docking bay that could protect you better than we ever could. They have better weapons, better shields, better everything." Princess Zarathel smiled slightly. "Better technology, yes. But technology is not everything, Captain Morrison. I have spent many months studying the different species in our galaxy. I have read your histories, watched recordings of your actions, analyzed your methods. What I found was very interesting." She stood up and began to pace slowly around the room. "The Zephyrians are masters of technology. Their ships are fast and their computers are incredibly advanced. The Corvins are warriors without equal. Their military tactics are studied in academies across the galaxy. My own people, the Velthari, have mental abilities that others can barely understand." "Then why choose us?" Lisa asked. "Humans are still new to space. We're still learning how everything works." "That is exactly why I choose you," the princess replied. "Each species I mentioned excels in specific areas, but within known parameters. They are predictable. You can study their tactics and know how they will respond to different situations. Humans are different." She stopped pacing and looked directly at Jake. "In my research, I found that humans have a unique quality. When faced with impossible situations, when all logic says you should give up, you find a way. You adapt. You improvise. You refuse to accept defeat even when defeat seems certain." Tony frowned. "Your Highness, that sounds nice, but we're just cargo haulers. We've never been in a real fight. Haven't you?" the princess asked, tilting her head. "Captain Morrison, I know about the incident on Kepler 7 3 years ago. Pirates attacked the colony while you were delivering medical supplies. The local defense force was overwhelmed. Logic said you should run." Jake shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He didn't like talking about Kepler 7. "Instead," the princess continued, "you used your cargo ship to draw the pirates away from the colony. You had no weapons, no shields worth mentioning, but you saved 3,000 colonists by making the pirates chase you through an asteroid field." "We got lucky," Jake said quietly. "Did you? Or did you use the advantages you had in ways the pirates never expected? They had better ships, but you knew that asteroid field better than they did. You used your ship's smaller size and better maneuverability to outrun them until the defense force could regroup." Lisa was staring at Jake. She had never heard the full story of what happened at Kepler 7. Jake rarely talked about his past. Princess Zarathel sat back down. "That is why I need human protection, Captain Morrison. I am facing a threat that cannot be defeated by superior technology or overwhelming force. I need protectors who can think in ways my enemies cannot predict." "What kind of threat?" Karen asked. The princess was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "There are those among the diplomatic convoy who do not want the peace talks to succeed. Some believe that war between my people and the Zephyrians would be profitable for them. Others think that chaos would give them opportunities to gain power. You're talking about assassination, Jake said. Yes. My telepathic abilities have detected hostile thoughts among some members of the escort convoy, but I cannot reveal this information directly without causing a diplomatic incident. The evidence I could provide would require me to admit I was reading minds without permission, which is considered a serious violation of interspecies law. The room fell silent as the crew absorbed this information. They were not just being asked to transport a princess. They were being asked to protect her from killers who might be among her own supposed protectors. Your Highness, Jake said slowly, even if we wanted to help, we're not equipped for this kind of mission. We don't have security protocols, we don't have weapon systems, we don't even have proper guest quarters. I do not need luxury, Captain Morrison. I need unpredictability. I need people who will find solutions that my enemies cannot anticipate. The other ships in that convoy are powerful, but they follow standard procedures. Their captains are trained to respond in specific ways to specific threats. You are not. She leaned forward, her purple eyes intense. I have studied human history extensively. When your species first encountered alien technology, everyone expected you to be overwhelmed. Instead, you adapted. When you faced enemies with superior numbers, you found ways to even the odds. When traditional methods failed, you invented new ones. Tony looked at his crewmates. She's asking us to bet our lives on being creative. I am asking you to be what you are, the princess replied. Human. Jake stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, he could see the alien ships waiting in the docking bay. Their crews were probably getting more frustrated by the hour. He thought about the 3,000 colonists on Kepler 7, and about how sometimes doing the right thing meant taking risks. If we agree to this, he said without turning around, what exactly are we getting into? How long is the journey to Kepler Station? 4 days through normal space lanes, the princess replied. The other ships will escort us, but they will not expect any real danger until we reach the station. And you think the attack will come during the journey? I am certain of it. It is the perfect opportunity. Any deaths can be blamed on pirates or equipment failure. By the time we reach Kepler Station, it will be too late. Lisa stood up and joined Jake at the viewport. What do you think? She asked quietly. Jake was quiet for a moment. He thought about his crew, about the responsibility he had to keep them safe. He also thought about the princess and about the peace talks that might prevent a war. I think, he said finally, that we're about to find out what humans are really capable of. He turned back to face the princess. We'll do it, Your Highness, but we do this our way with our rules, and my crew's safety comes first. Princess Zarathel smiled, and for the first time since they had met her, she looked relieved. Thank you, Captain Morrison. I believe you have just saved more lives than you know. As they left the diplomatic suite to begin preparations, Jake wondered what he had gotten his crew into. In a few hours, they would be responsible for the life of one of the most important people in the galaxy. The thought was terrifying and exciting at the same time, but as he looked at Lisa, Tony, and Karen, he felt confident. They might not have the best ship or the most advanced weapons, but they had something else. They had each other, and they had the human ability to find a way when no way seemed possible. The real test was about to begin. The New Horizon left Harmony Point surrounded by the most impressive fleet Jake had ever seen. 3 Zephyrian ships flew in perfect formation to their left, their silver hulls gleaming in the starlight. 2 massive Corvin battle cruisers flanked them on the right, their dark red armor making them look like weapons floating in space. Even the Velthari Royal Escort had joined them, despite being dismissed by the princess earlier. Jake sat in the captain's chair, watching the alien ships. On his display screens, each vessel was 10 times more powerful than his cargo freighter, but somehow he was the one carrying the most important passenger in the convoy. All ships report ready for jump to hyperspace, Lisa announced from her navigation station. The Zephyrian flagship is requesting permission to lead the formation. Tell them we'll follow their lead, Jake replied. No point in making this more complicated than it already is. In the cargo hold, Princess Zarathel had set up a small living area using portable furniture from her diplomatic suite. She had brought only 2 companions, her personal guard Gentar, a tall Velthari male with suspicious eyes, and her cultural advisor Kethara, an elderly female who seemed more interested in studying the human crew than in her official duties. Tony was in the engine room, making sure everything was running smoothly. The extra attention from the convoy ships made him nervous, and he wanted to be ready for anything. Karen had prepared the medical bay, though she hoped she wouldn't need to use it. The first day of the journey passed quietly. The convoy moved through hyperspace without incident, following the safe routes that had been mapped by countless ships before them. But Jake noticed that Princess Zarathel spent most of her time watching his crew work, taking notes on a small device that looked like it was made of crystallized light. "Captain Morrison," she said during their second day out, "may I ask you something?" "Of course, Your Highness." They were standing in the small observation lounge that Jake had cleared out for her use. Through the viewport, hyperspace flowed past them like a river of stars. "Why did you leave the Earth Navy?" she asked. "My research shows you were an excellent officer with a promising career ahead of you." Jake was surprised by the question. "How did you know about that?" "I told you I studied human history extensively. That includes the histories of the humans. I might need to trust with my life." Jake was quiet for a moment. "I lost some good friends during a first contact mission. Things went wrong and people died because of decisions I made. I decided military life wasn't for me anymore." "What kind of decisions?" "We were supposed to make peaceful contact with a new species. I followed the book exactly, did everything by the rules. But the rules were written by people who had never met these aliens before. My strict adherence to protocol was seen as hostile by their culture. The situation escalated, and people on both sides were killed." Princess Zarathel nodded slowly. "And yet you saved 3,000 people on Kepler 7 by breaking every rule in that same book." "That was different. There wasn't time to follow protocol. I had to act." "Exactly my point, Captain. When you follow rigid procedures, you become predictable. When you trust your instincts and adapt to the situation, you become effective." Over the next few hours, the princess continued her observations. She watched Lisa navigate around a small asteroid field, noting how the human woman made dozens of tiny course corrections instead of following the mathematically perfect path the alien ships computed. She observed Tony jury-rigging a repair to their environmental system using spare parts from 3 different systems, creating a solution that worked better than the original design. "Your crew is fascinating," she told Jake during their evening meal. "Each member brings different skills, but you work together without the rigid hierarchy I see in other species." "We've been together for 5 years," Jake replied. "We trust each other." Trust. Yes, that is the key difference. In Zephyrian crews, each member has a specific role and never deviates from it. Corvin crews follow orders without question. My own people work together through mental connection, but even that creates a kind of uniformity. She paused, watching Karen help Tony with a difficult repair, even though medical work was her specialty. Your crew members help each other regardless of their official duties. They question your orders when they have better ideas, but they still follow your leadership. It is a balance I have never seen in other species. It's not always easy, Jake admitted. Sometimes we argue about the best way to do things. But you argue, and then you decide together. That is what makes you unpredictable. Other species would have calculated the mathematically optimal solution and followed it. You consider multiple options and choose based on experience and intuition. On the 3rd day, something changed. Princess Zarathel became quiet and distant, spending more time meditating in her quarters. When she did speak to Jake, her voice was tense. "Is something wrong, Your Highness?" he asked. "I am sensing more hostile thoughts from the convoy," she said quietly. "The intentions are becoming clearer. Some of the crew members on the escort ships are planning something." "What kind of something?" "Violence. They are waiting for the right opportunity." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Can you tell which ships?" "The thoughts are too scattered. It could be any of them or all of them. But I sense the strongest hostility from the Zephyrian and Corvin vessels." "What about your own guard? Gentar has been giving us suspicious looks since we left Harmony Point. The princess was quiet for a long moment. I have been trying not to read his thoughts directly. It would be a violation of our customs to scan a loyal guard without permission. But now I am wondering if that courtesy is misplaced. That evening, Jake called his crew together for a private meeting. He explained what the princess had told him about the growing threat. So we're surrounded by ships that want to kill our passenger, Tony summarized. That's just great. What are our options, Lisa asked. Not many, Jake replied. We can't outrun them, we can't outfight them. Our only advantage is that they don't expect us to be a real threat. Maybe that's enough, Karen said thoughtfully. If they're planning to attack, they probably have a specific plan. They'll expect us to react in a certain way. So we don't react the way they expect, Jake said. We do something completely different. Like what? Tony asked. I don't know yet, but humans have always been good at improvising when their backs are against the wall. The next morning brought new complications. The convoy dropped out of hyperspace near a refueling station, a routine stop that had been planned from the beginning. But as they approached the station, Jake noticed something odd. Lisa, are you seeing this on the sensors? Yeah, I see it. The station's energy readings are all wrong. They're running way too hot for a normal refueling operation. Princess Zarathel appeared on the bridge, her face pale with worry. Captain, I need to speak with you privately. Right now. They stepped into Jake's small ready room, where the princess immediately activated a privacy shield from her personal equipment. The attack is coming, she said without preamble. I can sense it clearly now. Some of the convoy crews are planning to disable their own ships and blame it on pirates attacking the refueling station. When? Soon, within the next few hours. Captain Morrison, there is something else I must tell you. I have been reading my guard's thoughts, and I fear Gentar is part of the conspiracy. Jake's blood ran cold. The enemy wasn't just surrounding them. The enemy was already aboard his ship. How long have you known? I have suspected for days, but I was not certain until now. His thoughts have become clearer as we approach the attack point. He is planning to eliminate me during the chaos, making it look like I was killed by the same pirates who attacked the convoy. We need to arrest him. No. If we move against him now, he will know I have been reading his thoughts. That information could be used to discredit me and destroy the peace negotiations even if I survive. We must wait until he acts, and then prove his guilt. Jake rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. So we're going into a battle where we're outnumbered, outgunned, and we have a traitor on board who's planning to kill you. Yes. And our only advantage is that nobody expects us to win. That is correct. Jake looked at the princess who, despite her fear, was showing remarkable courage. Your Highness, I hope you're right about humans being unpredictable, because we're about to find out just how creative we can be when everything goes wrong. Through the viewport, the refueling station grew larger as they approached. Jake could see ships moving in patterns that didn't look quite right, and energy readings that suggested hidden weapons. The trap was being set and there was no way to avoid it, but as he looked at his crew working at their stations, Jake felt something he had felt before during the crisis at Kepler 7. It was the feeling that came when all the safe options were gone, and the only choice was to find a way through the impossible. All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers, he announced over the ship's intercom. Things are about to get interesting. The real test of human ingenuity was about to begin. The attack began exactly as Princess Zarathel had predicted. One moment the convoy was approaching the refueling station in perfect formation, and the next moment everything went wrong. Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from the Zephyrian flagship, Lisa called out from her station. Their systems are failing across the board. Same thing with the Corvin ships, Tony's voice came through the intercom from the engine room. Their engines just went dead, all of them at the same time. Jake gripped the arms of his captain's chair. That's not a coincidence. Lisa, get us away from the station. Emergency speed. Before Lisa could respond, explosions lit up the space around them. The refueling station erupted with weapons fire, revealing hidden gun batteries that had been disguised as normal equipment. Ships that looked like pirates came streaming out from behind asteroids, firing at the disabled convoy vessels. Captain Morrison, came the panicked voice of the Zephyrian commander over the communication system. We are under attack. Our systems have been sabotaged. We cannot defend ourselves. All ships, this is Captain Morrison, Jake replied, trying to sound calmer than he felt. We're moving to assist. Stand by. But even as he said it, Jake knew something was wrong. The pirate attack was too convenient, too perfectly timed with the system failures. This was the trap the princess had warned him about. Your Highness? He called back to where Princess Zarathel was secured in the cargo area. Is this what you expected? Yes, Captain. The attack is meant to provide cover for my assassination. Gentar will move against me soon during the confusion. As if summoned by her words, Gentar appeared on the bridge. The tall Velthari guard moved with deadly grace, his hand resting on the energy weapon at his side. Captain Morrison, Gentar said, his voice cold and formal, I must insist that you surrender the princess immediately. It is not safe for her to remain on this ship during combat. Where exactly do you want me to take her? Jake asked, buying time. In case you haven't noticed, we're surrounded by enemies. The Corvin battlecruiser can protect her better than this ship. Transfer her there immediately. Jake stood up slowly, his mind racing. That's interesting, Gentar, because the Corvin cruiser's weapons are offline. Their shields are down and they're sitting there like a target. Doesn't sound very safe to me. Gentar's eyes narrowed. You will follow my orders, human. I am responsible for the princess's safety. No, Jake said firmly. On my ship, I'm responsible for everyone's safety, including hers. Behind Gentar, Princess Zarathel appeared in the doorway. Her face was pale but determined. Gentar, why are you so eager to move me to a disabled ship? Surely the logical choice would be to escape the battle entirely. Your Highness, you do not understand military tactics. Please return to your quarters while I handle this situation. I understand perfectly, the princess replied, her purple eyes blazing with anger. I understand that you have been in contact with the enemies, who disabled our escort ships. I understand that you plan to kill me during this attack and blame it on pirates. Gentar's hand moved to his weapon, but Jake was ready for him. The human captain dove forward, tackling the Velthari guard before he could draw his energy pistol. They crashed to the floor of the bridge, fighting for control of the weapon. Lisa, evasive maneuvers now, Jake shouted as he struggled with Gentar. Get us away from those pirate ships. Lisa's hands flew over her controls, sending the New Horizon into a series of sharp turns that threw both fighters against the bulkhead. The cargo ship might not be fast, but Lisa could make it dance when she needed to. Tony, I need emergency power to the shields, Jake called out, still wrestling with the assassin. You've got it, Captain. Gentar was stronger than Jake, but the human captain had been in fights before. More importantly, he was fighting on his own ship, where he knew every surface and every angle. When Gentar tried to slam him against a control panel, Jake used the impact to grab a heavy tool and strike back. The weapon flew across the bridge, skittering under a console. Princess Zarathel lunged for it, but Gentar broke free from Jake and reached her first. His hands closed around her throat. You should have stayed quiet, Your Highness, Gentar hissed. Your death will prevent a war that my people believe is necessary. Karen, Jake shouted into his communicator. Medical emergency on the bridge. But Karen was already running up the corridor, having heard the commotion. She burst onto the bridge, carrying a medical injector loaded with a powerful sedative. Duck, she yelled to the princess. Princess Zarathel dropped to the floor just as Karen fired the injector. The sedative hit Gentar in the neck and he collapsed within seconds. Is he dead? Jake asked, breathing hard. Just unconscious, Karen replied, but he'll be out for hours. Good. We'll need him alive to prove what happened here. Jake helped the princess to her feet. Are you hurt, Your Highness? I am fine, thanks to your crew. She rubbed her throat where Gentar had grabbed her. But we still have the larger problem of the attacking ships. Jake looked at the tactical display. The pirate vessels were closing in on the disabled convoy ships, firing steadily, but not trying to destroy them completely. They wanted it to look like a real battle, not a massacre. Captain, Lisa called out, 3 of the pirate ships are moving to intercept us. We can't outrun them." "Then we don't run," Jake said, an idea forming in his mind. "Tony, can you overload our cargo bay magnetic loading system?" "Sure, but why would you want to do that?" "Because we're about to turn our cargo ship into something nobody expects." Jake sat back down in his captain's chair, his mind working furiously. The pirates expected the New Horizon to run or surrender. They expected a cargo ship to be helpless against armed raiders. They were about to learn that humans don't always do what's expected. "Lisa, plot a course directly toward the largest pirate ship. Tony, start overloading those magnetic systems. Karen, get some of our medical supplies and mix them with the cleaning chemicals from storage. I need something that makes a lot of smoke." "Jake, what are you planning?" Lisa asked, even as she followed his orders. "Something crazy enough that it might actually work." The New Horizon turned toward the approaching pirates, accelerating as if trying to ram them. The pirate captain, confused by this suicidal move, tried to communicate with them. "Human ship, you will surrender immediately, or be destroyed." "This is Captain Morrison," Jake replied calmly. "We're not surrendering. We're not running either." "Then you are fools. Our weapons will tear your ship apart." "Maybe. But you want this to look like a real pirate attack, don't you? You need some of these ships to survive so they can report what happened." "Destroying everything would be suspicious." There was silence from the pirate ship as its captain realized Jake was right. "Tony, now!" Jake shouted. The overloaded magnetic loading system erupted in a massive electromagnetic pulse that fried the electronics of the closest pirate ship. At the same time, Karen's smoke mixture began pouring out of their exhaust ports, creating a thick cloud that made it impossible for the other pirates to get a clear shot. "Lisa, emergency stop, then full reverse thrust." The New Horizon's sudden deceleration caught the pirates completely off guard. The second pirate ship, expecting the cargo vessel to continue forward, flew right past them into the smoke cloud and collided with their disabled companion. "2 down, 1 to go," Jake said grimly. The remaining pirate ship was more cautious now, keeping its distance while trying to get a clear shot through the smoke. But Jake had one more surprise for them. "Lisa, can you use our maneuvering thrusters to push us sideways while we back up?" "That's not exactly standard flying procedure," Lisa replied, "but yeah, I can do it." "Do it. Tony, vent our atmosphere through the emergency ports on the starboard side." "Jake, that's dangerous. If we vent too much, trust me." The New Horizon began moving in a way that no ship was designed to move, sliding sideways while backing up and venting atmosphere in a controlled manner. The result was that they appeared to be a ship that was out of control and venting life support. "Human ship, you are damaged," the pirate captain announced. "Surrender now, and we will rescue your crew." "We're not damaged," Jake replied. "We're just getting started." The pirate ship moved closer, trying to capture the apparently disabled cargo vessel. That was exactly what Jake wanted. "Now, Tony, full power to engines." The New Horizon suddenly burst forward, ramming the pirate ship before its captain could react. The collision damaged both vessels, but the pirate ship got the worst of it. "Their weapons are offline," Lisa reported, "and their engines are dead." Jake slumped back in his chair, exhausted but triumphant. Around them, the space battle was winding down. The other pirate ships, seeing their companions defeated by a simple cargo vessel, were retreating in confusion. "Captain Morrison," came the voice of the Zephyrian commander. "How did you do that? Your ship has no weapons, no military training." "We had something better," Jake replied, looking at his crew with pride. "We had the element of surprise and the willingness to try something nobody expected." Princess Zarathel stepped up beside his chair, her eyes shining with admiration. "Captain, you have just proven my theory about human unpredictability in the most spectacular way possible." "We're not done yet, Your Highness. We still need to get you to Kepler Station safely." The convoy limped toward Kepler Station 3 days later, looking nothing like the proud fleet that had left Harmony Point. The alien ships had been repaired enough to fly, but their crews were still shaken by what had happened. The New Horizon, despite being the smallest and least advanced ship in the group, led the formation. Jake stood on his bridge watching Kepler Station grow larger on the view screen. The massive diplomatic facility hung in space like a small moon, its many docking bays already busy with ships from across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species had come to witness the peace negotiations between the Velthari Empire and the Zephyrian Confederation. Approaching final docking approach, Lisa announced from her navigation station. Kepler Station Control is requesting to speak with Princess Zarathel directly. Put them through to her quarters, Jake replied. Princess Zarathel had spent the last 3 days documenting everything that had happened during the attack. She had recorded Gentar's confession after he woke up from Karen's sedative, and she had gathered testimony from the crew members of the pirate ships they had captured. The evidence of the conspiracy was overwhelming. Captain Morrison, the princess's voice came through the intercom. Station Control has requested that we dock at the main diplomatic bay. It appears word of our adventure has already reached the negotiating teams. Jake wasn't surprised. News traveled fast in diplomatic circles, especially when it involved assassination attempts and space battles. He suspected their arrival would cause quite a stir. Tony appeared on the bridge, wiping grease from his hands. Captain, the repairs are holding, but I wouldn't want to try any more fancy flying for a while. We're lucky this old ship held together as well as it did. She's tougher than she looks, Jake replied, patting the armrest of his captain's chair affectionately. Karen joined them from the medical bay, where she had been treating minor injuries from the battle. Gentar is ready for transfer to station security. I've kept him sedated, but he's stable. Good work, everyone, Jake said, looking at his crew with pride. I know this wasn't the kind of mission any of us signed up for, but you all performed. Beyond anything I could have asked for. Captain, Lisa said softly, do you think we really made a difference? I mean, beyond just saving the princess? Before Jake could answer, Princess Zarathel entered the bridge. She had changed from her travel clothes into formal diplomatic robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light. Despite everything she had been through, she looked every inch the royal she was. To answer your question, Lisa, the princess said, you have made a difference that will be felt throughout the galaxy, but perhaps not in the way you might expect. She moved to stand beside Jake, looking out at Kepler Station. The conspiracy to kill me was not just about preventing peace between my people and the Zephyrians. It was about proving that humans are too weak and unpredictable to be trusted with important responsibilities. I don't understand, Tony said. For the past 50 years, as humans have spread throughout the galaxy, older species have been watching with concern. You adapt too quickly. You form alliances too easily. You solve problems in ways that make no sense to our established patterns of thinking. She turned to face the crew. Some species see this as a threat. They believe that humans will eventually upset the balance of power that has existed for thousands of years. The conspiracy was funded by groups from several species who wanted to prove that humans cannot be trusted with critical missions. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. So this was all a test? Not exactly. The threat to my life was real, and the conspiracy would have succeeded if you had failed. But yes, in a way, humanity was being tested, and you passed in the most spectacular way possible. Karen looked confused. How did we pass? We barely survived. We got lucky. Princess Zarathel smiled. That is exactly the point. What you call luck, I call adaptation. What you call barely surviving, I call finding a way to win against impossible odds. You faced superior technology, overwhelming force and betrayal from within, and you still found a solution. She activated a small device that projected a holographic display showing the battle. Look at what you accomplished. You turned a cargo loading system into an electromagnetic weapon. You used atmospheric venting to create a deception. You defeated 3 armed ships using a vessel that was never designed for combat. We just did what we had to do, Jake said. Exactly. And that is what makes humans special. Other species would have calculated the odds and either followed standard defensive procedures or surrendered when those procedures failed. You refused to accept that the situation was hopeless. Lisa was staring at the holographic replay of the battle. It does look pretty impressive when you see it like this. The recordings of this battle are already being studied by military academies across the galaxy. the princess continued. Tactical analysts are trying to understand how you achieved victory, but they are missing the most important point. Which is, Tony asked, that you were not trying to be tactical geniuses. You were simply being human. You worked together, you trusted each other's expertise, and you were willing to try things that had never been attempted before. The docking procedure completed with a soft thud as the New Horizon settled into its berth. Through the view screen, Jake could see crowds of aliens gathered on the station's observation decks, all trying to get a look at the ship that had defeated a superior force through pure human ingenuity. Your Highness, Jake said, what happens now to the peace negotiations, I mean? They will proceed as planned, but they will proceed with a new understanding of humanity's role in galactic affairs. The evidence of the conspiracy has already changed the political landscape. Species that were once dismissive of human capabilities are now requesting human advisors for their own diplomatic missions. She paused, looking directly at Jake. Captain Morrison, you and your crew have been personally requested by the Galactic Council to serve as special diplomatic escorts for future sensitive missions. Jake's eyes widened. Your Highness, we're just cargo haulers. We don't know anything about diplomacy. You know something far more valuable. You know how to find solutions when traditional approaches fail. You know how to work together under pressure. You know how to hope when hope seems pointless. Karen stepped forward. What about the war between your people and the Zephyrians? Will the peace talks actually work? I believe they will. The attack that was meant to destroy trust between our species has instead shown us what we can accomplish when we work together. The Zephyrian commander who was rescued during the battle has become a strong advocate for cooperation with both my people and with humans. The princess moved toward the airlock, where station security was waiting to escort her to the negotiating chambers. Captain Morrison, before I go, I want you to understand something important. What you did was not luck or accident. It was the result of qualities that make humans unique among the species of this galaxy. What qualities? Jake asked. Hope. Creativity. The refusal to accept defeat. The ability to see possibilities where others see only problems. She smiled. And perhaps most importantly, the understanding that sometimes the best solution is not the most logical one, but the one that nobody expects. As the princess and her escort disappeared into the station corridors, Jake turned to his crew. They all looked stunned by what they had just learned. So, Tony said finally, we're heroes now? I guess so, Jake replied. Though I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think it's amazing, Lisa said. We always knew humans were different from other species, but I never thought about it being an actual advantage. Maybe that's why it is an advantage, Karen observed. We don't overthink things. We just do what needs to be done. Over the next few hours, as they watched the news broadcasts about the failed conspiracy and the successful peace negotiations, the crew of the New Horizon began to understand the larger implications of their actions. They had not just saved a princess or prevented an assassination. They had demonstrated to the galaxy that humanity had something unique to offer. Captain, Lisa said as they prepared to undock and return to their regular cargo runs. Do you think we'll take that diplomatic escort job? Jake looked around at his crew. These people who had faced impossible odds and found a way to win through creativity, teamwork, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. I think, he said slowly, that we're about to find out what other problems the galaxy needs humans to solve. As the New Horizon pulled away from Kepler Station, Jake felt something he hadn't experienced since his days in the Earth Navy. He felt like they were part of something bigger than themselves, something that could make a real difference in the galaxy. Behind them, the peace negotiations continued, with human observers present for the first time in the history of such talks. Ahead of them, the stars waited with new challenges and new opportunities. The galaxy had learned what humans were capable of when everything seemed hopeless. Now it was time to see what they could accomplish when anything seemed possible. The adventure was just beginning,